The billionaire paused outside the door, feeling an unsteady tension rising around him like an unseen fog, and the wheelchair-bound girl watched him with a mix of hope and fear that tightened her chest as though she were trapped between danger and salvation, and neither choice felt safe. He stepped forward, and she followed, guiding her chair with slow, careful movements as though every inch carried a memory she wished to bury, and the hall stretched on with flickering lights that cast long, trembling shadows across the floor, growing darker with each step they took. The girl could feel his uncertainty, and she knew he sensed the weight of the truth. She had not yet spoken, but she could not reveal it, not yet, not until he saw what waited behind the old wooden door that marked the room she had avoided for so long, and her heart thudded like a warning against her ribs. The billionaire glanced down at her, noticing how tightly she gripped the wheels of her chair, and he wondered what kind of life she had survived to carry such fear inside her eyes, but he also felt something else, an echo of familiarity. He could not explain, as if her story had begun long before this moment. When they reached the door, she hesitated, her fingers hovering over the worn brass handle, as if touching it might awaken something sleeping on the other side, and she whispered that once he stepped inside, nothing would ever be the same for him, or for her, or for the mother she wanted him to save. The billionaire stood silent, listening to the faint sounds drifting from the room's soft breaths and the subtle shuffle of someone turning in their sleep or pretending to sleep, and he felt a strange tension settle between his shoulder blades, as if unseen eyes were waiting for him beyond the door. She finally pushed the handle, and the hinges groaned under the weight of years, revealing a dimly lit room that smelled of antiseptic and cold nights spent without comfort, and the billionaire stepped inside, feeling the air shift around him heavy with secrets he did not yet understand. The mother lay on a narrow bed, her figure faint beneath thin blankets, her hair tangled as though she had fought through restless dreams, and when her eyes opened, a flicker of recognition flashed across her face, startling the billionaire before he had time to hide his reaction. The girl rolled forward, her voice soft and trembling as she called to her mother, but the older woman did not look at her. Instead, her gaze remained locked on the billionaire, as though he were a ghost from a life she had tried to outrun, and her breath hitched in a way that unsettled the silence. The billionaire felt the room closing in the air, thick with unspoken truths, and the mother whispered his name, not loudly, but clearly enough that the girl heard it and froze, her expression shifting from confusion to terror, as if the name alone carried a story neither of them were prepared to face. Next, the billionaire stood frozen as the faint whisper of his own name drifted through the dim room, like a memory resurrected from shadows, and the girl in the wheelchair felt her pulse quicken because she had never heard her mother speak that name before, and something in the brittle tone made her feel as though the walls themselves were listening. The mother struggled to sit up, her hands trembling as she pushed against the thin mattress, and her eyes never left the billionaire, as if she feared he might vanish. Or worse, that he might remember everything she prayed he had forgotten, and the tension between them thickened until the girl could almost taste the fear in the air. The billionaire stepped closer, his movements slow, cautious, uncertain, and he stared at the mother, searching her face for answers he had not realized he needed until this moment, and a faint flicker of recognition stirred in him. Though he could not yet grasp where he had seen her or why his presence terrified her so deeply, the mother finally spoke, her voice thin but laced with a desperation that struck the girl like a blow, and she told him that he was not supposed to be here, that he was not supposed to find them, that she had done everything in her power to keep their lives far from his reach, and the girl felt the floor tilt beneath her as her world unraveled. The billionaire knelt beside the bed, drawn by a gravity he could not resist, and he asked the mother how she knew him, though his own heart beat with a strange familiarity that told him the answer was buried somewhere in the past. He had tried to abandon long ago, and he feared that unearthing it now would bring consequences. He was not ready to face the mother turned to her daughter and her eyes Softened with sorrow deeper than anything the girl had ever seen, and she confessed that the reason she did not want to be adopted, the reason she had begged her daughter to protect her, was because the billionaire was the last person on earth who should ever have found her, and the weight of that truth pressed down on them. The girl felt her chest tighten as she looked between them, desperate for an explanation, and the billionaire felt the same hunger for truth. Burning within him, though, he sensed that whatever the mother had to say would alter the course of all their lives, and he braced himself. As she drew a shaking breath, she told them that years ago, before the accident that bound her daughter to the wheelchair, before the life of hiding in fear, she had once worked for a man whose power stretched far beyond anything the girl could imagine. And that man had been ruthless in his ambition, destroying anyone who stood in his way, and the billionaire felt his throat tighten. As fragments of memory returned, she explained that this man had controlled entire empires behind closed doors, making enemies with ease and allies with blood, and the girl watched her mother as if seeing her for the first time, realizing that the gentle woman who raised her held secrets sharpened like knives, and the billionaire leaned in, sensing the name on the edge of her breath. But instead of a name, she spoke of a night long buried, a night when she had discovered something she was never meant to know, something that had forced her to flee under cover of darkness with nothing but a few belongings and the unborn child she carried, and the billionaire felt a cold dread wash over him as the puzzle began to assemble. The girl stared at her mother, her heart pounding as she realized the truth she had feared for years, that the reason they had run from place to place, never staying too long, was because someone had been searching for them, someone with enough power and reach to find them if he wanted, and the billionaire wondered if he himself had been part of that darkness. Without knowing it, the mother finally looked at him, and her voice cracked as she said that he was tied to that man in ways he did not understand, that his wealth and status and influence were born from the same empire she had escaped. And as the words fell into the quiet room, the billionaire felt the ground shift under his identity, as though his entire life were built on shadows. The girl reached for her mother's hand, needing some anchor, but the mother pulled her close and whispered that the billionaire was the only person with enough resources to protect them, yet also the one person who could doom them if he chose. And the girl felt torn between trust and terror, while the billionaire stared at them both, caught between his past and the future. They feared the billionaire asked her what she had discovered that night long ago, and the mother hesitated, her lips trembling, as though speaking it might awaken the danger she had spent years hiding from. And she told him that the secret she carried was powerful enough to shatter everything he believed about himself, and the girl sensed that her world was about to break. As the mother prepared to reveal the truth, a sudden sound echoed from the hallway, a soft, deliberate footstep that did not belong to any nurse or staff member, and the billionaire turned sharply, knowing that whoever approached had not come to offer help, and the mother clutched her daughter's hand, her voice barely a whisper, as she said that it was already too late, and the danger they had feared had finally found them.